Hello dear learners. I welcome you all to this very first module of the course Introduction to Functional English. This module is called Communicating Through English in the 21st Century. In this module, we shall try to learn the importance of English both as an international language and as a language of communication. We all know that as a language of communication, English is very important in the context of the 21st century, and that the skills necessary for becoming a better speaker or writer shall have to be learned if you want to speak and write English well. By the end of this module, we shall learn that English language plays a very important role as a means of communication in various functional areas of the 21st century. The skills necessary for communicating through English can be learned and improved, and the realities of today's complex global and technology-driven markets shall require effective communication skills. Now, let us look at the importance of English in the 21st century. It is important to note that among all the existing languages of the world, English has the widest reach. In nearly all countries of the world, English has become the lingua franca in many fields, which include business, politics, science and technology, advertising, media, entertainment, healthcare, service industries, and so on. It is stated that English is the first language of nearly 400 million people across the world. But more than 1 million people speak English either as a second language, usually as part of their business or profession, or as a foreign language, speaking or writing occasionally or as needed. Besides, English is the working language of many international organizations like the United Nations, NATO, and the European Union. English is also the official language of Indian states like Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Nagaland, etc. In the 21st century technology-dominated world, English is also the most used language of the internet industry as well as of all websites. This background should help you to understand the importance of English, as for many people, learning the English language is a gateway to a broader range of information as well as opportunities. The following are some of the points that clearly explain the importance of English in the present-day world. We shall note that English is the most commonly spoken language across the world. English is the official language of more than 50 countries of the world. Around 400 million people of the world speak English as their first language. English is the language of the media industry. If you speak English, you will not need to rely on translations and subtitles to enjoy your favorite books, songs, films, and TV shows. English is also the language of the internet. Most of the websites that we visit regularly today are written in English. English is easy to learn compared to many other languages. Knowing English increases the chance of getting a good job or finding an employment opportunity. These points almost essentialize the use of English language as part of what we commonly call language for specific purposes or English for specific purposes, intended for a particular profession or a range of existing or emergent occupation and targeted on the use of particular vocabulary or phrasing. We shall learn more about English for specific purposes or ESP and the use of English in certain specific professional areas in some later modules. Now let us discuss why knowing the skills of better spoken communication is important. We are going to discuss some of the skills required for oral or spoken communication in the following as explained in the book Better Speaking, a Guide to Improving Your Spoken English, published by British Broadcasting Corporation. First, we should mention the importance of confidence while speaking. Confidence, which means belief in yourself, and your abilities is a very important aspect in learning to speak any language. Generally, many learners like you worry that you will make mistakes while speaking English, and the people listening to you will not understand anything. However, spoken English is often different from written English. For example, take the case of an interview in TV. If the same interview is written down, we can see that many of the sentences are not grammatically correct, and the speaker repeats some of the words to give himself or herself time to think about what he or she is trying to say. He also uses some words. These are not words, but we can better call them feelers, such as are, a, hm, etc., which are not words but noises to give himself or herself more time to think while speaking. Although the grammar in such extracts is not always correct, we can understand the message without any difficulty. Here lies the importance of confidence in the speaker. If a message is delivered by the speaker confidently, the listener will never worry about any mistakes committed during the production of the message. To build confidence while speaking in English, we can, of course, do the following. First, we can practice frequently. The more you speak, the easier it becomes. Try to think of the people you can talk to in English or places in your town, school, locality, college, university, workplaces, etc. where English is spoken. Secondly, we need to relax and think about the message. Relaxing is very important because becoming nervous is quite common if you only focus on the grammatical rules while you speak. You should remember that what you want to say is usually more important than how you say it. Speaking is easier when you have something to say and you are enjoying the conversation. Thirdly, we can rehearse what we want to say. Everyone does not have good speaking skills. If you are actually nervous, try to practice saying what you want to say to yourself for a number of times. Planning and rehearsal shall make you more confident while speaking. Here we can think about an activity. Imagine you are joining a new office or class. How would you introduce yourself? What did you tell other people in the group about yourself? What would you like to know about them? Practice introducing yourself and asking questions to others. If you have a friend who is learning English or you are in a circle of like-minded individuals, you can play this as a game. The second skill we should refer to is knowing the difference between fluency and accuracy. As a speaker, you will also need to understand the difference between fluency and accuracy. Speaking English fluently has been a goal for many learners of the English language. Fluency means being able to communicate your ideas without having to stop, pause, and thinking too much about what you are saying. However, speaking accurately means that you speak without errors of grammar and vocabulary. However, if you have a strong focus on accuracy, you may find that you worry more about making mistakes than actually speaking. This can make you shy about speaking in English, and as a result, your spoken fluency might not improve. This means that although you know English well, you might not be able to take part in a conversation. On the other hand, you may be someone who really likes to talk, or you are willing to try out the language even though you make mistakes. This can help you sound very fluent. The third skill of communicating through English is finding the right word when you speak. Finding the exact word for the idea you want to express is important for becoming a fluent and confident speaker. It is not unusual for the learners of English to feel that they do not know enough English words. The following points may help you in this regard. You can try to explain what you mean. Don't worry if you cannot find the exact word you are searching for. Instead, try to explain what you mean. This is known as paraphrasing, and it is an important skill. As an example, if you forget the word envelope that we always use to send a letter, you might say, the thing you put a letter in before you post it. Or to explain an elephant, you could say, a big animal with large legs and ears. Then you can try starting your sentence again. To give yourself more time to think, go back to the beginning of your sentence and start again. It is not unusual to hear some people saying, "What was I saying? Where was I?" before repeating what they have said. You can also ask for help from others. Working together with a person who is listening will make life easier for you. If you get stuck and really cannot think of the word you need, you can ask the person who is listening for help. You could also say, "I can't think of the word I need. Can you please help me?" Okay, so the next skill relates to learning language in chunks. So what do we mean by this? When we listen to someone speaking, say in a TV interview or in radio, there are probably phrases or groups of words that we hear together all the time. For example, when announcers begin talking about the program which is about to start, they usually say, "Coming up next is," then there's a pause. In this situation, coming up next is used as a chunk of language. That means a phrase or a group of words which you hear together all the time. In this regard, you should also know about the importance of chunks for better speaking. Chunks are important because they make one sound natural. When learning English, it is important to notice how words are often heard together. Let us take, for example, the phrase different sorts of things. In this expression, sorts means types, but we would not usually say different types of things. This linking together of words is called collocation. Therefore, we can say that the phrase sorts of beautifully collates with things. But listening to English a lot, you will begin to notice or hear which words are usually found together. Very often, within a single situation, such as news reading in the TV or other situations, phrases like "take it as it comes," "coming up next" are some of the examples of phrases that have a fixed meaning. By learning and using useful chunks of language, you can begin to sound more fluent and natural while speaking. By focusing on phrases rather than on individual words, you can begin to build your store of English language chunks. This can help you to become more fluent because you will not need to think about each individual word in the sentence. Then, we have to refer to another skill which is showing where you are going. One important thing to consider when you are speaking in English is to find out how you are going to show the listeners what is important in your talk. This is called signposting, meaning to show how the information is relevant to the talk. You will note that this is an important feature of spoken English. When we introduce a list of new information with phrases like "first of all," it means that first of all, then we take a pause. It means that the speaker will gradually have more things to say. Phrases like "one thing I have to say is," etc., show that what he or she is going to say is important. However, you will have to learn the art of signposting your talk effectively. Then another skill that we all must remember is keeping the listeners interested. When you speak in English, how can you make sure that the person you are speaking to really wants to listen to you? When we are learning to speak a new language, we often focus on the accuracy of what we are saying, making sure we choose the right words and grammar to express our ideas precisely. However, as a speaker, it is also important to think about how your listener feels. If what you say is dull and boring, and if the listener does not get a chance to become involved, then he or she may stop listening. The following are some tactics of keeping your listeners' attention. First, you can vary your vocabulary. The effective speakers always use a variety of words for the same idea. When speaking in English, it is important to avoid repeating the same words too often because this can make what you say sound very boring. Here, you can use synonyms or words which have similar meaning. Secondly, we can plan what we want to say. It is important to think about the topic you are going to discuss before the actual discussion begins. Simply take a few minutes to remind yourself of all the words that you know about that topic, and then when the discussion starts, you will have a stock of words ready for use. Thirdly, we should try to involve our listeners. Keeping the listeners involved is the quality of a good speaker. Questions such as, have you thought of, do you know about, asked before you tell your story will get the listeners to think about the topic and to be more interested in what you have to say. Then the next skill we should refer to is being a supportive listener. The person who is listening to in a conversation can help the speaker a lot. When we start a conversation, we usually speak for some of the times and listen for more of the times. However, while listening, it is important to remember that you have an important part to play in making sure the speaker's message is clear. In a conversation, show your interest in what the speaker is saying. By being an active listener, you can make sure that the conversation is successful. Therefore, the following are the most important things to do to be an effective listener. First, try to recognize how you listen in your own language. In any language, be it Hindi, Bengali, Nepali, Assamese, Bodo, etc., there are words, phrases, or noises which are used in the language to show interest and understanding. However, as a learner, you must see how often do you use those words. Do you usually make eye contact with the person who is speaking? Try to identify how you become an active listener in your own language. Secondly, you can show that you are interested. Make sure you take an active interest when you are listening. Think of at least one question you can ask the speaker to show that you have been listening. Then, thirdly, you can ask for clarification. Sometimes a speaker can say something which you do not understand and which is not clear. Practice asking for clarification. That is, asking the speaker to make their meaning clear. For example, if the speaker says he or she is feeling exhausted and you are not sure meaning of the word exhausted, you can ask him by saying, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean. Then the next skill is sounding natural. For many people who are learning to speak English, pronunciation is a big problem. Many sounds available in the English language may not be available in your own mother tongue. Therefore, you may face the difficulty to make yourself understood, even though your vocabulary and grammar are too good. Therefore, right pronunciation is very important while learning to speak a language like English. In a country like India, pronunciation is often a difficult area for both the students and teachers. Improving your pronunciation in English involves many things. You need to be aware of the sound systems of the English language as well as the stress patterns in words and sentences. You will also need to think about the intonational patterns and processes which differ from language to language. So, we come to the end of this module. From this introductory module, we have learned that English as a language is used by more than 400 million people across the globe. English is the dominant business language, and it has become almost a necessity for people to speak English if they are to enter a global workplace. English is the language of science, of aviation, computers, diplomacy, tourism, and various emerging 21st century fields. English is the language of the media industry. If you speak English, you will not need to rely on translations and subtitles anymore to enjoy your favorite books, songs, films, and TV shows. English is also the language of the internet. Many websites are written in English. You will be able to understand them and to take part in forums and discussions once you know the English language properly. Good communication is part of skill that needs to be learned through proper training. We have learned that the retaining confidence while speaking, distinguishing between fluency and accuracy, finding the right word, using the language in chunks, keeping the listeners interested, being a supportive listener, sounding natural are some of the important skills of effective spoken or written communication through the English language. As skilling and reskilling of an individual is important in the context of the 21st century, in the next module, we shall learn about the importance of skills in the 21st century with particular emphasis on communication skills. So, see you again in the next module. Till then, bye.